everyone, I'm Nithin, and today in PSLE Science, I'll be going through the respiratory system. And in my previous videos, I have done the digestive system, okay? And so the digestive system and the respiratory system actually fall under the category of body systems, okay? So let's jump straight into respiratory system. So in the first segment of our video, I'll be going through the composition of air, okay? So the composition of air. So let's take a look at a pie chart that I've made. So first, let's take a look at the legend. So orange is nitrogen, okay? So let me write it down over here so that you guys can see. Okay, orange is nitrogen. Green is oxygen. Okay, and then yellow is carbon dioxide plus other gases as well. Okay, so CO2 means carbon dioxide. Okay, and I just did this blank so that it represents the other gases. Okay, so let's take a look at the percentages. So there is 78% of nitrogen. Okay, so it's actually quite a high amount, right? And there is 21% of oxygen. Okay, now we know that nitrogen is actually more than oxygen, right? Isn't that amazing? And carbon dioxide and the other gases are only 1%. So such a little percent, right? Yeah, so we need to know the amount of each gas in the world. Okay, so this is basically it. So there's 78% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, and there's 1% of carbon dioxide and other gases. Okay, so let's move on to our next segment. So the next segment, breathing versus respiration. Okay, so we need to know the difference between breathing and respiration. So breathing, what does breathing mean? Breathing, and what does respiration mean? So breathing is like we are breathing right now, right? This is called breathing, but then respiration is different. So let's take a look at their meanings. So breathing is basically the exchange of gases between the air and our bodies. Okay, so the exchange of gases. So we take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. So this is the exchange of gases. So we are exchanging oxygen for carbon dioxide. Okay, so I hope you understand that. Now let's take a look at what is respiration. And if you have watched my previous videos, you should already know the meaning of respiration. So if you did not, let's just revise it. So the process by which oxygen is used to break down food and provide us with energy. Okay, so I think you know this one, right? So respiration is like done within the cells. So the cells take in oxygen and use the digested food, and it releases energy. Okay, so this is basically respiration. So I hope you understand it. So now let's move on to our next segment of this video. So next, we are going to talk about comparison of inhaled air and exhaled air. So inhale air is basically when we breathe in, okay, and exhale is when we breathe out. Okay, so I hope you understand that. So let's move on. So this is the table for the inhaled air and the exhaled air. Okay, so let's take a look. So oxygen, when we inhale it, we inhale 21% of the oxygen, and when we exhale it, we only have 17% left. Okay, and for the carbon dioxide, we inhale 0.03% and we exhale 4%, right? And for the nitrogen, we inhale 78% and 78%. We exhale it as well. Okay, and the water vapor, we can't literally say in percentage, so I'm going to say in words. So we inhale less water vapor than we give out. Okay, and the temperature is lower when we inhale it, and it's higher when we exhale it. Okay, so let me just write down here. So let me write down, it decreases over here. It decreases from 21%, increases remains the same, okay, and this is increasing as well, and this is also increasing as well, okay. So I hope you understand this. So the next segment is basically related to this, okay. So this is the next segment. So we have 4 questions from the comparison of the inhaled and exhaled air, okay. So let's take a look at the first question. Okay, the first question. Why does exhaled air contain more carbon dioxide or less oxygen? Okay, so I've highlighted oxygen and carbon dioxide because we are comparing it, okay? So contain more carbon dioxide or less oxygen. So we are comparing it. So let me just write that there's more oxygen, there's less oxygen when we exhale, and there is more carbon dioxide. So it's less and more. That is why there's more carbon dioxide here and less oxygen here. Okay, so this word is very important. This is the point of comparison. So I hope you understand this. So let's answer this question. Okay, so why does exhaled air contain more carbon dioxide or less oxygen? Okay, so oxygen in the inhaled air is used by our body cells, okay. So this is basically why we have less oxygen for respiration to release energy. So when we inhale it, right, our body cells use it for respiration to release energy and carbon dioxide. So when it's used, there's basically less oxygen, and when we respire and we release energy, we also release carbon dioxide, and that is why we have more carbon dioxide when we inhale it, okay. So I hope you understand this. Let's move on to our next question. Question 2. Why is the amount of nitrogen the same in both inhaled and exhaled air? Okay, why is it the same? Isn't it the same? Look, 78% here and 78% here. It's the same. Why is it the same? So now let's answer that question. And first, guess some reason for it, okay? So why is the amount of nitrogen the same in both inhaled and exhaled air? Nitrogen remains the same in inhaled and exhaled air as our body does not use it, and it also does not produce nitrogen during life processes. Okay, so basically what this means is that it remains the same because our body does not need nitrogen at all. We don't use it, okay? And our body, and why does it also stay the same? There's another reason, because our body also does not produce nitrogen. Like our body produces carbon dioxide, right? But our body does not produce nitrogen. That is why it remains the same when we inhale it and exhale it. Okay? Now let's move on to the third question. So this is the third question. Why does exhaled air contain more water vapor than inhaled air? Okay, why does it contain more water vapor? Have a rough guessing based on your previous knowledge, okay? So why does exhaled air contain more water vapor than inhaled air? So let's take a look at the answer and try to make sense of it. So water in our body basically gains heat, okay? So water basically gains heat from our body and it evaporates to form water vapor, right? Then this causes the amount of water vapor in the exhaled air to increase, okay. So I hope you understand this, because there's water in our body, right? You know that there's about 70 and above % of water in our body, and this water gains heat from our body and evaporates to form water vapor, okay. And this water vapor is causing the amount of water vapor in the exhaled air to increase, because when we inhale it, right, there's actually water vapor from the surroundings, but when we exhale it, there's water vapor from us. That is why it increases, okay. So I hope you understand this concept. Now let's move on to our final question, question 4. So question 4, why is the inhaled air cooler than the exhaled air? So you can see that for the temperature, right, you can see that it's a lower temperature in the inhale and a higher temperature in the exhale. So that is why they're asking in this format. So think about it. Our body is definitely more hot than the surroundings, right? So this is the clue that I've given you. So try to make sense of this clue and try to create an answer. Pause this video if you need to. And then let's move on to the answer now. So why is the inhale air cooler than the exhale air? The surrounding air is cooler than our body, okay? When we inhale the surrounding air, it gains heat from our warmer body before it is being exhaled. Just like I said, our body is actually hotter than the surroundings. So look, take a look. Surrounding air is cooler than our body. So that literally means that our body is hotter than the surrounding air. And when we inhale the surrounding air, it gains heat, okay? Look, it gains heat from the warmer body. Okay, so you need to take note of this answering technique for gaining heat. Okay, it's very important because most students, they don't write this important word from, or they don't write gains heat from what, they just write gains heat. Okay, so before it is being exhaled. So this actually causes the inhaled air to be at a lower temperature than the exhaled air. Or you could also say this, the exhaled air is at a higher temperature than the inhaled air. Okay, so I hope you understand this, and I hope you have understood the logic for these questions. Now let's move on to the next segment of this video. Section 5. Okay, so it's basically, we are going to talk about the parts and functions of the human respiratory system. Okay, so the parts and functions of the respiratory system. So basically, we have a nose, we have a windpipe, and we have the lungs in our respiratory system. Okay, so let's take a look at the function of the nose. So the nose actually has nose hair in it, and it also has mucus. So mucus is like the gooey substance, you know, right? And this actually helps us to trap dust from our inhaled air. So do you know like why some people say breathe through your nose, not your mouth? Because it's because of this. Because when you breathe through your mouth, right, it actually takes in all the dust and all the germs. But when you breathe through your nose, the nose hair and the mucus will trap it so that you can breathe in clean air. So it's basically like a filtration system. Okay, so I hope you understand this. And then the windpipe. So what does the windpipe do? The windpipe is basically, it allows gases to pass through between the nose and the lungs. Okay, so it's basically like a tube. It's just a connecting tube. Okay, and then the lungs. What is the lungs do? So the lungs is the place where the exchange of gases take place. So oxygen is absorbed through the lungs into the bloodstream, while carbon dioxide is removed from the lungs and exhaled. So the lungs function is basically for EOG, basically exchange of gases. So let me just write in short form, EOG. It's an acronym, you need to know this. Okay, some of your teachers might use this, some of them don't use it. It's okay, just you can have this as a reference. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about air sacs. So air sacs, this is how a air sac look like. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but this is actually very important for this system. So the air sacs actually help to increase the exposed surface area of the lungs for faster exchange of gases. Okay, I don't even think you know what the air sacs is. Okay, so basically, let me draw your lungs over here, or let me just use this picture. So there's basically like these tubes coming out from the lungs, okay? So you can see this, right? You can see these red color tubes, right? So the air sacs are basically like this black color thing. So let me outline the surface area of it. So it's in black, right? This is the only surface area. But then when there's air sacs, there's actually this thing over here. So let me write in orange color. So there's this, sorry, orange is too, like, let me write in dark blue. So there's this thing, and this is the air sac, one of them. So basically, I'm sorry for it to coming out of the lungs, but just imagine, okay? So this is the air sacs, okay? So this is the S-axis, and it will actually increase the surface area. Look, so this is the S-axis, right? When I'm outlining, it actually increases the surface area by a lot. See, it's actually pretty good, right? And this is how an S-sec looks like when you're like very close to it. Okay, so let me just quickly explain about the S-axis. So I think you understand what S-axis are. So let me just explain it. So S-axis, see oxygen, you breathe in, right? It actually goes through this tube into the S-axis, and you will go into the red blood cell, right? And then after this, the CO2 is basically carbon dioxide. It comes out from the spaces over here, comes out from the blood cells, which carry the carbon dioxide here, and it will be carried out away. Okay, so I think you understand this already. So now let's move on to the next segment of this video. So this section is the last segment, okay? Comparison of the respiratory systems. So let's take a look at it. So basically there are three types of respiratory systems. So there's the plant and the fish and the human, right? So the plant, the part which allows gaseous exchange is the stomata, and the part which exchanges gaseous exchange is the gills of the fish, and for the human is the lungs. Okay, so let's take a look at the function of the stomata. So the stomata allows the plant to carry out gaseous exchange with the surrounding air. Okay, changes in size of the stomata affects the amount of gases moving in and out of the plant. So you can see like there's a small stomata here, there's a bigger stomata here, right? So basically like that. So this is basically the changes in size affecting the amount of gases moving. Okay, so the stomata allows gaseous exchange. So this is basically gaseous exchange, right? So gases exchanging, right? So I hope you understand that. So after this, the gills of the fish. Okay, so these are the gills over here that I'm drawing in black. Okay, so I hope you understand this. So the gills, right, of the fish actually allow the fish to take in dissolved oxygen. Okay, the fish doesn't take in any type of oxygen, it takes in dissolved oxygen. Do you know what is dissolved oxygen? So in the water, right, there's not actually like oxygen, there's actually dissolved oxygen. Okay, it's called dissolved oxygen because the oxygen is dissolved in the water. Okay, and then the gill filaments, basically the gills over here, increase the surface area of the gills. Okay, the gill filaments increase the surface area of the gills. So there's like these things over here, right? You can see like these lines coming out, right? These are basically the gill filaments. So these increase the surface area of the gills. Okay, so it increases the surface area of the gills in contact with the water for faster exchange of dissolved gases. So basically the fishes, right, is actually a one-way train. So the fish takes in the water, right? The fish actually takes in water. It does not take in oxygen by itself because the water is containing oxygen. So the water goes in, right? That's why the fish always has its mouth open and it's always swimming. Okay, so the water goes in, right? And then the water comes out like this. It's a one-way train. It comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. Just always this is the only thing that happens. Okay. And in this way, right, what happens is that the dissolved oxygen will actually be trapped into the gill filaments, and these gill filaments actually have many blood vessels, and these blood vessels will actually take it into the bloodstream for the fish to use. Okay, so I hope you understand about the fish. Now let's move on to the human. Okay, the human, just like I said, the fish was a one-way train, right? The human is actually a two-way train. Okay, so the oxygen comes in, goes on in, and then our body uses it over here. Then it comes back into the lungs and goes out. So it's also a two-way train. Okay, and just like the plant over there, plant also does that. Okay, so let's read the function of the lungs. Just like last time, the lungs allows humans to carry out exchange of gases with the surrounding air. So I've explained this just before this, and I've also explained the air sacs. So the air sacs in the lungs increase the exposed surface area of the lungs for faster exchange of gases with the surrounding air. So I think you got no problem with the lungs, right? And I hope you understood all of this. So thank you and bye bye. I'll see you in my next video, and I hope you understood all my explanation for this video. Bye.